pampered because you fell out. What? I said, I feel like someone beat me up. So he went through my spine, everything, and he touched this in my back, and I jumped. And he said, there's no bone there, so you're fine. You'll be fine. And it's been 3 weeks, and it does feel better. This is my first day without taking it all day. I just took it in the morning and I'm fine.
Huh? Okay.
So, 3 more weeks on this thing and it'll be fine. It's a new thing. Like I needed it. Like a little bit.
You don't need any more.
Yeah. Okay. Is my son there? Yeah, sometimes he does. Oh, sure. He's usually there. Well, he'll tell me.
Oh, sure. All right, just be careful.
But you can't, do they give you names? They don't give you names. Yes. So I will go until the river comes. Of course, it's an off week.
No.
Yes, I do. What is it probably about? All right.
Stuart and Dennis.
5. Okay. Yeah.
I think people are coming tomorrow, so
Yeah.
I'll be there.
It's a gift from the Abakashi. Yeah. And it matches, you know. Yes. He wanted it, but what can you do, right? Yeah. What? I think he's here. Oh, she's went back to her car for something.
Very small group tonight.
Yeah. People here.
What?
There's 2 people larger.
Yes.
Tonight we knew it was gonna be very small.
Well, people have to do a lot.
Got something tomorrow. So all right. We got a meeting. Sure.
That is great. Thank you. These are beautiful. Yes. This
So I
is
like to go through.
very great.
Yes, I go.
Through the earth.
I got the same power. I got the same power. Much better. They're so delicious.
First. And then you're moving.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. So it must be summer because we have the fruit of the earth here on the Bima. Thank you, Arlene, for these beautiful, fresh from the garden specimens. Let's give thanks for the gift of being able to be together. In the words of Kine Matu, please join us. Lie, 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 lie. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד. Turn to page 120 as we turn now to the kindling of the lights of Shabbat. For that honor, I'd like to call upon Jeff and Teresa Weisberg.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu l'Hyde shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu l'Hyde shel Shabbat.
And we turn the page 122, as we prepare for Kiddush.
The heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam morei peri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam morei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon yidchiranu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava u'v'ratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh
you, and good Shabbat. Filled with sweetness. We continue to welcome Shabbat. Now with Psalm. Please join us on page 136. First Psalm 29. It's more than that.
Mizmor David, Havul Adonai ben Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod Va'oz, Havul Adonai, Kavod Shalom, Havul Adonai, Kodesh, Kol Adonai, Anamayim, El HaKavod Dirim, Mizmor David, Havul Adonai ben Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod Va'oz.
From there, we turn to page 138 as we continue to keep the music going and turn to the poetry of the Kabbalists of ancient Sfat and these words to welcome Shabbat. L'chadodi.
L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad yishmiyanu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'ritila. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki makor habracha merosh mikadem yasucha sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. Hitomeri kiva orech uri shir daveri kavod Adonai alai nigla. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. Ori v'shalom ateret mala gam v'simcha u'tzala toch emunei ansegula. Ori chala l'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah. L'chadodi likrat kalai yalai neshabbat nekabbalah.
We have greeted Shabbat. Let's greet one another. Take a moment. Turn to someone you haven't greeted yet tonight, if possible. Wish them a Shabbat Shalom.
I didn't meet you. I was just waving.
Continue on page 146, as we are called as one community to worship. The words of the Baruch. Ya la la la, 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 ya la la la. Baruch Adonai, Baruch Adonai. Top of page 149, please join me. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Ba'aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Akein Adonai Eloheinu nishaleinu, U'kumeinu nasiach b'chokecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toracha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki V'orech yameinu, U'lahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavta tasir, v'nei olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinnatam levanecha v'dibartam v'shivshacha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'b'shachbecha u'b'kumecha u'kshatam le'ot b'yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'tavtam al במזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו מה עשיתם את כל מצוותיי, וייתן קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. And I'm on page 157. Let's read responsibly. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages the vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace.
Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Amen. Page 161. Give us a place to rest, eternal God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. With you, our true protection and safety, and in your presence, our acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, Aporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורות המרית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות המרית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות המרית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות המרית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת מי נפש, Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורות הבאים עולם. Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. Beginning on page 164, is the prayer known as Tikvah. Let us pray to God and also strengthen our resolve to act at the same time. Please rise. Adonai, Shabbat Tikvah, Ufia Kiteilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotinu Yimoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ma'el Ha'adol Ha'yor Ha'norah, El Elyon, Ro'el Chasadim Tovim, Mekanei Hakol, Mezocher Chatzerot Le'imahot, U'mevii Gerulim Le'nehem, Melech Ozer Moshiach Rabim, Baruch atah Adonai, Malei Avraham v'Yitzchak Sarah. Atah Gibor Elam Adonai, v'chayei hakol atah v'Moshiach, Mori atah, v'chayei chayim v'chesed, v'chayei hakol v'rachamim rabim. Zomek nofrim v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emurato l'shenei afar, milchamot habal gvurot, u'midam melach, melech menit u'chayah, u'matzmiach yeshua. Ne'eman atah l'chayot ha'ol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei ha'ol. Atah kadosh shemcha kadosh, u'kedoshim ha'olam ha'elu ha'sela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. You can see it. On page 172, Eloheinu Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu v'Tzei v'Menuchatenu. God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat. Page 179 is a brief piece of a poem from Hyde. It says, don't stop after beating the swords into plowshares. Don't stop. Go on beating. Make musical instruments out of it. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first. So we continue to pray for peace, for Eretz Yisrael, for Kol Ha'olam. We keep that image of the musical instruments instead of the weapons of war in our minds as we turn to this prayer and music. Shalom. Shalom Rabba Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rabba Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Tasim le'olam, Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam. In this place of shalom, peace, fellowship, friendship, let's take a moment now to add to the prayers we said aloud, those which we find in our own hearts. Pray in silence. Oseh shalom, shalom b'ramav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu, le'akol Yisrael, le'imru amen. U'yaseh shalom aleinu le'akol Yisrael. Shalom, shalom b'ramav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu, le'akol Yisrael, le'imru amen. U'yaseh shalom aleinu, le'akol Yisrael. So I got emotional at the very beginning when I first saw the procession. It was a sea of students clad in their blue robes with their caps, fresh faces marching down the hill to the football field and the seats that awaited them. I kept controlling myself through most of the speeches, the music, the Pledge of Allegiance. But when they called Paola's name and she rose to shake hands and get her diploma, I got emotional all over again. Graduation is a time that's filled with emotions, not just for me, but for others. We feel pride perhaps at what our graduate has achieved and become, maybe wistful at the goodbyes that go along with the endings before the new beginnings begin. And for sure I felt, and I know others felt, immense gratitude for all that has brought my daughter to this point, and for all that have brought every child to the point of developing and maturing. And then, of course, there's the fear and trepidation about what is yet to come, what will be there for her. Listening to the various speeches at Paola's graduation made me think, imagine myself in their shoes and say, what words would I want to offer to my own graduate, to the graduating class at large, or really to any of us of any age facing a new unknown. And, because I'm a rabbi, I turned to the Torah portion for advice. This week, we turn to Parshat Shalach Lecha, and And then this week, our people, the Bnei Israel, are on the brink of something new as well. They know they're about to enter the land of Canaan, or at least it's not far from view. It's real, it's not imagination anymore. And God invites Moses to send some scouts to investigate that promised land, that bright, shining future that lies ahead of them. The scouts, as many of you know, famously come back with a somewhat mixed report. The land is fertile, its fruits are large and abundant. Thank you for the prop, Arlene. That's the good news, but the bad news is the land is inhabited by giants. And some of the scouts say, in Numbers 13, verse 33, we were as grasshoppers in our eyes, and so we looked to them. So what the scouts say, in a sense, is that the promise is real, the potential out there is real, but so is the fear. And in the case of the scouts and of the community of Israel, that fear ends up overwhelming their sense of promise. Grasshoppers they are, and grasshoppers for the moment they remain. So that may not sound like the most inspiring graduation message, but here's 3 lessons that I'd like to lift up from this moment in our people's stories. The first is this. Sometimes, in the face of newness or change, you're gonna feel like a grasshopper. In the case of the new graduates, they know big changes are coming their way, and it's natural to find big changes intimidating, overwhelming. Big things can make you feel small, like a little insect. And of course, that's not only true at graduation. Life throws all of us moments like that. Moments when we feel inadequate. Moments when we feel like grasshoppers. My advice at that moment is to be patient with yourself. Notice the feeling, but also know that that feeling is not going to last. It's fleeting. And indeed, our tradition suggests that sometimes it actually may be good to feel like a grasshopper. Let me quote Proverbs 28:14, which says, "Happy is a person who is always afraid." Now that sounds odd to our ears, I know, but the Midrash continues to explain this. Why? Because fear, a little bit of yirah, is an attribute of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. Right? Why? Because even though the righteous know that they're righteous, they're never quite sure they're righteous enough. And so this piece of Midrash gives examples of different ones of our ancestors. Jacob, who was afraid at one point in Genesis 32. And Deuteronomy, Moses is afraid. Each of these are men of great repute who have done well in life, who are afraid that they haven't done as well as they could. And so in this case, a little bit of fear can be a good thing. It's about being humble, not puffing yourself up too much, being aware of your own flaws and vulnerabilities so that you can perhaps make them a little better. So that's lesson 1. Go forth and allow yourself to feel like a grasshopper sometimes. It's normal, and it could even be helpful. Lesson 2. Don't let others make you into a grasshopper. So that verse that I quoted before from Numbers, I'd like to read again, just the English translation. We were as grasshoppers in our eyes, and so we looked to them. Now you may know that the Torah teaches us that because of this incident, the report of the scouts and the people's reactions, there's a great punishment that is given to the Israelites, the Bnei Israel, which is to say that God says to the people, you are not going to be able to enter that promised land immediately. Indeed, you're going to have to wander for 40 years in the wilderness because of this incident. The Midrash says, why such a harsh punishment at this moment for the people? Yes, the people have complained here and they've said, oh, would that we would go back to Egypt, but they do that in other places in the Torah too. They've lost faith before. What is it about this moment that causes God to say, you have to wander for 38 more years? And the answer lies in that verse. Again, the Midrash here, I'm putting Bamidbar Rabbah, says, when the people said, we were as grasshoppers in our eyes, God said, okay, I can forgive them for saying that. But when they said, and likewise we were in their eyes, they see us as grasshoppers, God responds, how can you know what others think of you? How can you know what you look like to others? Who is to say that you were not as angels in their eyes? And it's then that God decides to punish them. That's when God decides not to allow them to live for 40 years. So the lesson I grab from this is, yes, sometimes we're going to feel a bit lacking in self-confidence. But what we can do is to allow ourselves not to become overwhelmed by that feeling. And especially not to put too much into how other people judge us. Our flaw, the flaw of our ancestors, was in assuming that others saw them as poor and as insignificant. Perhaps the fault was in thinking about or caring about what others thought about them altogether. Eleanor Roosevelt was once quoted as saying, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. So lesson 2, don't let other people make you feel like a grasshopper. Trust your own judgment of yourself, not the judgment, real or perceived, from other people. Lesson 3. Know how to handle the grasshopper moments. So feeling like a grasshopper, feeling insignificant may be part of our lives, but how we handle those moments makes all the difference. If you catch yourself taking seriously the judgments of others about you, about who you are and what you're worth, whether those judgments are real or imagined, you can remind yourself to do a few things. And in a subtle way, this Torah story gives a little bit of advice on that subject too. It's a bit more nuanced, but let me try to explain it. At the beginning of the Torah portion, Moses gives instructions to the scouts, and he says, go up there to the Negev and on into the hill country and see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell in it strong or weak? Are their towns open or fortified? So let me introduce you to a bit of a nerdy concept here, the notion of parallelism, which appears in the Bible all the time. And that is when two phrases that are right after each other are structured in a similar way, you would usually expect them, the first part of the phrases, to match, and the second part to match. And if there's a difference, our sages use that as a reason to interpret. So, are the people in it strong or weak? It's the first use. You might have expected the second one to say, are their towns fortified or open? Thinking, as we often do, that a strong people would have strong fortifications to protect themselves. But this pair turns that expectation on its head. The strong pairs the people being strong, pairs of towns being open. The people being weak, pairs with fortifications. Why? Says our sages, walls and barriers and fortresses that are thick, those are actually a sign of weakness. It's grasshoppers who live in strong forts. The stronger species don't need any outer protective covering. All of their protection comes from their own self-sufficiency. and so forth. So when you feel like a grasshopper, your natural tendency might be like that of most of us, which is to build strong walls. Walls that keep you from experiencing the new, walls that keep you from learning and growing, and walls that prevent you from relating to others. The Torah suggests that when you feel like a grasshopper, recognize that tendency, but then resist it. With every brick you take down, feel yourself getting stronger and growing in stature. You may not be able to take it all down at once, but start small in bite-sized steps. Take one step to something you're afraid of, to introduce yourself to a new person, to try something new. Susan Cain, a psychologist and author of Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, writes that little by little, if we use those small steps, we can retrain our amygdala, that is the organ in our brain that regulates our fear responses. And that amygdala will know that we won't be swallowed up by humiliation when we venture out of our comfort zone. So to the Israelites, to the new graduates, and to each of us, there is a new world out there waiting for you. Take your whole self, fears and all, go forth step by step, and let's together discover its promise. Can you hear what's in? We're going to turn our thoughts now to those whom we know in our community and elsewhere who are in need of our prayers for healing. I invite you, as I read the names before me, to picture each of these people whole and healthy. And I'll invite you in a little while to add names of your own as well. Tonight we pray for Eric Aronson, Jamie Littman-Avish, Eileen Andak, Ellen Bassett, Batabat Herzliya, Benjamin Menachem Frank, Carolyn Barron, William Barter, Mindy Belkin, Stephen Berman, Jane Bernstein, Arnold Block, Dennis Brenner, Jackie Cases, Nora Correa, Toby Domash, Susan Zietzig, Janet Ewing, Rhoda Finkelstein, Arthur Fisher, Judy Fisher, Michelle Fisk, Evan Foster, Martha Garland, Barbara Goldberg, Florence Goldrin, Stephen Goldstein, Jean Gormley, Elise Grace, Lee Hawley, Marilyn Heckler, Ian Hirsch, Matthew A. Hood, Dacia Horowitz, Phyllis Horn, Stephen Israel, Toby Israel, Christine Jacobson, Danette Jamal, Roberta Kahn, Louis Kaufman, Tatiana Koltunyuk, Michael Constant, Esther Kruchevsky, Dylan Labisi, Lawrence Landy, Lisa Landau, Sandy Lay, Gail Levy, Paul Lipson, Robert Mandel, Robert Mannix, Barbara Massey, Susan Miller, Ashley Moranti, Adam Moranti, Mendel Zalman, Ben Bela, Michal Zahava Bat Miriam Shulamit Bat Bela, Patrice Newman, Nora Tzipora Bat Ilana, Andrew O'Donnell, Carlo Osuna, Sophia Palladino, Esther Parker, Gerlinda Pescatore, Helga Pfeffer, Ben Pilch, Rabbi Lester Polanski, Dean Powell, Stephen Rand, Carol Ryder, Julie Rosenberg, Alan and Laura Rosenspan, Renee Rosenthal, Sylvie Rubel, Adele Schoner, Anna Rachel Bat Miriam, Charlotte Miriam Schnupp, Claire Shapiro, Jeffrey Schoenholtz, Marjorie Schoenholtz, Edmund Steiner, Faye Strobel, Rhoda Strobel, Tova Bat Shifra, Arlene Iris Wisson, and Shirley Young. If you wish, I invite you to share any additional names that you have this evening.
Karen Rosie.
Daniela?
Matthew Prince.
All those names we've shared out loud, those we hold in our hearts as well. As we say, Holy One of blessing, be with them all and bring them to healing. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeach Olam. Let's turn together to page 371 for this blessings. Yishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu, Mekor HaBracha, Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Continue on page 586 with the aspirational words of Alenu. Please rise as we open the work.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula li'yotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'elokei ha'aratzo, v'lo samanu k'mishpot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahen, ve'yor aleinu k'yor ha'olam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishacharimu
Be seated. Page 592. When I die, give what's left of me away to children, and old men that wait to die. If you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone. Give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known and loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me it away. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those who are friends and neighbors of loss, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we give thanks for the love that they gave us, the love that lingers on. First, in this period of Shoshim, with love we now remember Ruth Gell, remembered by her family and her children, Stephen and Lori, and Alan and Susan Gill, and her Temple Tikvah family. And then we also remember those whose yardside, the anniversaries of whose passing, occurs at this season. With love, we now remember the following beloved. Louis Adas, husband of Carla Adas. Molly Bassick, mother of Susan Louis. Celia Comerell, grandfather of Carolina. Calvin Cooperman, father-in-law of Ruth Cooperman. James Elias, father-in-law of Hermina Elias. Jacob Farber, father-in-law of Elaine Farber. Charity Fishkin, the sister-in-law of Val Fishkin. Hyman Fox, father of Mindy Daniels. Sarah Friedman, relative of Rudy and Adam Friedman. Helen Lipson, remembered by Carol, Alma, and Janice, and all of one's family. Emily Mandel, mother of Andrew Mandel. Ruth Rudick, mother of Jane Rudick. And Dorothy Shusett, mother of Jerry Flansers. Is there anybody who has an additional name you'd like to share with us for our memorial prayer? Zichronam livracha. May the memories of all the people who brought love into our lives continue to bless us all. Let's turn together to page 598. As we rise to remember them and those who have none to say God. We join together. Yitkadal yitkadash shemei rabbah. Ya'amad yibrach yirutei yamid malchutei. V'chayachon v'yomechon. V'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael. V'adalav v'zman kariv yivru amen. Ye'ei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam v'amei amayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei t'kudsha v'richu. Ve'ela minkol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Taviran v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlava rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yalkol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'brama. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yalkol Yisrael v'yalkol Yoshvei Tegam v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'brama. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yalkol Yisrael v'yimru amen. You may be seated. That's, unless you're this evening's female officer, gender vice bride. Let's come up with some announcements.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, gee, it's rare to read it from this fine print, but my printer broke, my air conditioning is gone, so it's a whole exciting evening. So, thank you, Rabbi Cantor. Whichever side. You know, we started the service thinking there would be nobody here, and we have a crowd. This is good. Thank you to Carolina for sponsoring tonight's Oneg in memory of her mother, Helen Lipson. Tomorrow morning, beginning at 9:15, please join us for Torah study, tefillah, and Kiddush lunch at Temple Bethel of Great Neck. An RSVP for Kiddush is a must. Not sure if there's any time to respond, so if you did, have a good time tomorrow. Here's a rare event. I have the t-shirt, so you know. Mark has been dedicated for 200 plus weeks, non-stop, having on the mark. This week, he's still holding it, but it'll be on Tuesday because of the July 4th holiday. So there is a change, something unusual for Mark. He's dedicated. It's every Thursday, but a change again. Sisterhood has started the honey sale for the year. Wish family, friends, and business associates a sweet and happy New Year with an 8-ounce jar of kosher clover honey. Orders must begin by August 8th to enjoy free shipping. Looking ahead, Friday, July 19th, joint Shabbat service with Temple Bethel at Stepping Stone Park in Great Neck, with a picnic beginning at 5:30 p.m. We are told everything should be good. It's a private park. I just mentioned you're going for Bethel, and they're going to let you in. Sunday, July 28th, there will be a sing-along with Temple Bethel beginning at 4:30 p.m. This is something new. As always, check the weekly update for the links and everything else is needed. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Friends, we'll turn to page 642 to conclude at the bottom. It's my heart's desire will appear to not. Eilech hamdali, Husana ve'ana titalem. 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 Prepare for our Oneg upstairs. Please join us. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, one and all. Happy 4th for those of you who are celebrating. We'll celebrate a little more next week, but